Welcome back, everybody. This is the General and Housing Committee. It's still Wednesday, February 18th. At some point soon, we're going to we're going to have an introduction of H 858, which is an act relating to the creation of state law enforcement and firefighters bargaining unit. The author will be here any minute, which he is. We'll return to that. For the moment, I want to get into our discussion of our letter to appropriations. This is a letter in which we make recommendations concerning the budget areas that are under our purview. I just want to tell the members of the committee, here's what I did. I emailed all of the people, all of the agencies and all of the entities and said, remind me what you're asking for, what you got, etc. And I accumulated it. And I used kind of the basic, Gina, come in.
Nice.
I used the basic approach from last year of having tiers. And have a seat. Well, I'm just going to introduce one thing and then we'll get to you. So I used the tiers and I just took a first crack at it. I've alerted Robin Shy that we know full well that this is a year with almost no money. And that we're just putting out our wish list with appropriate statements. And, it's very different than last year. I reviewed last year's letter. It was more elaborate. There were more elements in it, and there was actually a good bit of money available. And this year it's not. So that's why you'll see me saying, for example, VHCB asked for 12 million above base. But then I said, we realize that in the current environment, that amount will not be possible. But I just put it in there as a placeholder. Really, I think they're just going to have to sort of work backwards and ask themselves what's their total housing budget, and kind of work backwards. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a visit at some point on the QT and asks if you only had to fund one thing, what would it be, or something like that. It's just going to be that kind of year. I think it's a very low expectation here. So stopping for a moment and coming back to H 858, which is an act relating to the creation of the state law enforcement and firefighters bargaining unit. And our august colleague, Representative Gina Galfetti, is the author. And Gina, what we do is we have a lot of bills on the wall, as you can see.
Indeed.
Yeah, really. But, yeah, I know.
This
But
one came in pretty late.
but everybody who has introduced a bill, we just made a policy last year. We have everybody in. It's just a good idea. This is your chance to tell us a little bit of, if we, any bill that we take off the wall, we then have counsel give us a walkthrough and testimony, et cetera. But this is just your chance to quickly tell us what you're thinking, what's the bill about, what your thinking was, what your motivation was. Anybody who was an impetus for it.
Yeah, I had some folks in Fish and Wildlife, game wardens, and liquor and lottery and stuff reach out to me about their ability to negotiate where they fall in like their retirement, where they fall in other aspects within the statewide structure. Like, for example, Vermont state police officers, I believe it's 14 years can reach like retirement eligibility. And if you're coming in from a different department, game warden and stuff, they just don't have the same access to get to the same level of retirement as quickly as like Vermont State Police do. So what this would do is it would allow all these other folks that have kind of been left out of the conversation to form a collective bargaining unit and advocate for inclusion in the retirement system, basically.
So this would be for just firefighters?
No, it's liquor and lottery, it's firefighters, it's, let me see who else we got in there. Here's something. Basically, anyone who's in law enforcement, game wardens, DMV has some people, you know, that are enforcement officers, all of those kind of. It's basically fish and wildlife, liquor and lottery, and motor vehicles would be able to collectively bargain for within the state police, you know, kind of structure.
Do they need, this is, probably I should know this, but don't. Do they need legislative authorization to petition the labor board to make them a bargaining unit? I just don't know.
I'm not 100% sure about that. You know, the guy that came to me with this reached out to all of these people, and they were very, you know, overwhelmingly supportive of the idea of being able to do this. So, I'm looking through my notes here.
Is this a short form bill?
No, it's not.
Oh, it's
No.
the full thing. Okay,
It's the
all right.
full,
yeah,
it's the
yeah,
full
okay.
flavor. And it just kind of, it would separate something that's kind of like persisted through a bunch of different administrations. And recognizes that, you know, the firefighters, the game wardens, and the DMV people that are doing like law enforcement activities are on par with the Vermont State Police.
On par with who?
Vermont State Police.
Yeah.
You know?
Can I say something?
Yeah, please go ahead. I was
But
about to
just
say, questions?
For the committee, though, it doesn't mean these folks aren't in a bargaining unit.
It means they have a right to ask for one.
No,
Yeah.
they already, no. Some of them already are. This is to be in a different unit.
I see. You mean some
So
of
I don't
them,
want people thinking that they're not in one, okay?
they're, in other words, they may be in a bargaining unit, but then the question is whether they should be moved into one.
A distinct one, yeah.
Same point.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make it clear for the committee that people not be like, what? They're not in a bargaining.
Thanks, Rep. Krasnow.
Yeah.
Any questions of the author? If we take this up, of course, we'll walk through, et cetera. No, go ahead.
I was just wondering when you say the law enforcers, like state things, are we gonna include like any prison guards at all?
No, this doesn't include DOC employees.
Okay.
It would just be like game wardens, there's certain liquor and lottery officers that have full like law enforcement, you know,
Okay.
purview, and what's the other one? DMV.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, thank you for
Does
that.
anybody else want to ask the author a question? Come on, guys. Here's your shot.
Yeah, why the firefighters? Why are they in a list of law enforcement people?
Because there are certain people in the fire department that are
Code enforcement?
Yeah, exactly.
Fire, like.
That are,
fire-
yeah.
Code enforcement, yeah. Other questions? Yes. Go for it.
Why wouldn't you want to include the DOC?
It's just a separate entity. They have their own bargaining unit already. So this is a catch-all for other people in law enforcement. DOC's already got its own distinct unit.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yes, you can help yourself.
I can't help myself. Does this mean, does this mean those who, as Rep. Krasnow said, they're already in a bargaining unit? Would, if this legislation were to pass, would it just be like, check, okay, that they can start a new bargaining unit? Or would they have to then vote to,
Ask the LRB.
well, no, they'd still have to do that, but they're already part of a bargaining unit.
Yeah.
And I'm forgetting the words that I'm looking for,
To
but
separate,
yeah,
whatever
would they have to?
No, They could, it would be more like an opt-in thing.
But would they have to leave their current bargaining unit?
Not, it's not my understanding of it.
Uh-huh.
Which council might be able to, call me wrong, but they worked in concert with me in drafting the legislation, so.
Okay,
Not like council.
was it Sophie? Did Sophie draft it?
What's that?
Sophie's that?
So Sophie drafted it from ledge council, but I'm saying that
Yeah, yeah.
players that affect the list legislation would affect work with me.
Got it.
on-
Okay.
On exact language.
Yeah,
One of these here bills, I think it's
Elizabeth.
Sophie to draft.
Elizabeth, you got a question? She's behind you in line, but you don't have to
Hi.
look at her, but
I just wondered whether you have thought at all about how the potential passage of Prop 2 would impact this. Thanks.
I would think that the potential passage of Prop 2 could make it irrelevant, but it's something that concerned me and folks reached out to me, and I think it's important enough to consider. Until that happens.
right.
You had the same, I think you asked me the same question last year, Elizabeth, about another labor bill. Thank you, though.
Any other questions? Gina, 1,000 thank yous.
Thank you.
Glad you
guys.
came by.
All right.
Okay, take care.
Yep.
So I want to now, but just I want to take a 30-second recess. Okay, but we will not go offline. Ted, which are you? I don't want to waste your time. Are you here? Or which?
I was planning to get in room for the budget letter.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, I just want to make sure you weren't like waiting for some bill and I hate it when JFO wastes time by sitting in on the wrong thing.
Well, I appreciate the consideration, but yes.
Okay,
If
cool.
there are any
Okay,
questions or
great.
research I can go to the
Right.
budget.
Now, do you have our budget letter?
Do you express on the?
Yeah, okay. So I was explaining, this is a very rough first draft. And it's for your consideration. Thanks to Joe's input, I have realized that probably if I was more awake than I was when I did this first draft, I might just to say, you notice there's a big heading, housing, right? Tier 1, first priority, tier 2, second. We're down halfway, page 2, it says proposed legislation. I probably would make that its own thing. It's not a tier. It's just letting them know that that's out there. I might even put it at the end or something like that. It's not, I didn't mean to tier it, and as I explained a few minutes ago, our assignment really was to focus on the budget, the governor's budget. And of course, all the stuff that's proposed legislation, it's just that, it's just proposed. And it isn't even out of here yet. So I just put it there because I did. So I could stick it at the end, I can leave it out or whatever. And then the other elements than housing. So tier 2, second priority right now really consists of homeownership tax credits, the mobile home investment, the housing accelerator at DHC. No, not that. That's it. And Home Share Vermont. Everything else is elements other than housing. Okay, I'm sorry that it's a little chaotic. I just, like I said, was doing this as best I could. So, discussion, thoughts. And it's, like I said, it's a little different than last year. Like, for example, I didn't bother debating with myself over how much I should put down for above base one time for PHCV, because for all I know, it might be 0. I just took the number they asked for and just put it in there and said, well, I know they're not going to get that, but I tried to explain why these things were important, why VHIP is important. And you'll notice that I emphasized, I I emphasized a multiplier. Because it's just the conversations that I've had with Representative Shy have emphasized that when we don't have any money, it's nice to use other people's money. And the other people are either the federal government or private sector. And so I asked myself, what are the most valuable state investment in that sense? And it is, in fact, VHCB and VHIP. They multiply their money, as does the treasurer, but that's just proposed. Okay, I'm done. Comments? Yeah.
Okay.
Emily first and then you. Okay, go on, Emily, you're on.
I don't have it up on the screen, so I have some few questions. Or maybe I'll just say what I think. So VHIP we're doing it to be in the base, is that
Yeah.
right? Okay, good.
The tier one, since you don't have it up,
Yeah,
tier one is VHCB funding.
yeah,
It's 12 million one time above base. The administration is just base.
right.
VHIP is 4 million in base, same as the
Yeah,
administration. And then I have a paragraph that explains why VHCB is important and a paragraph that explains why VHIP is important.
okay. And then is Home Share Vermont in their base?
Okay, home share is a part of tier two.
That's a
With-
tier 2.
Yeah, what it is home ownership tax credits, mobile home investment. What's the R?
Improvement.
Improvement. What's the R?
Improvement. Repair, thank you.
Repair.
Repair.
Yeah, okay. Then MER
Yeah,
and then home share. That's what's in tier.
okay.
two.
Okay.
And that's all there is. That
Yeah, yeah, but
Housing.
just making sure. And then for the labor related things, we have VLRB is in there.
250. Yeah.
Yeah,
What's in, there's just a section at the moment that is called elements other than housing,
yeah,
and it's Human Rights Commission.
right.
I can go over that in a minute.
Okay.
Land Access Opportunity Board and VLRB.
All right, this seems, and is there any what about SASH or any of the Cathedral Square type of stuff?
Not in here.
Not in here. Okay.
No.
All right, so got it. So VHIP base, we have home share, things other. All right, that seems good to me.
Okay. Thoughts, comments? Yes,
Can you explain to me what the base only means?
yeah. Okay, so help me out here. I think Ted can do it. I have a feeling, right? Why don't you do that? You're sitting here. You got to identify yourself.
Sure, Ted Burnett, Joint Fiscal Office. So the portions in the base refer to certain B sections, and this is the routine year-over-year funding a specific agency, department, program would receive, and they're generally called out in certain sections of the budget.
And the base for VHCB is,
The property transfer tax. And so under statute, VHCB receives 50% of property transfer tax revenues after there's a $2.5 million annual housing bond payment and Department of Taxes Administration costs. That statutory amount is not withstood, but I will say that in the current FY27 GovRec, the 50% is pretty reflective of the statutory 50%.
which is like 27, or is it 30?
39, I think.
Yeah, it's.
That's what I wanted to know. Is this
How
an
much is it? You know how much it is?
I don't wanna,
You know, we know.
yes.
Say your name for the record.
Chris Donnelly, Chairman of the Trust, it's 37.6.
37.6. That is their statutory base. So that's what base means. And I'm gonna put that 37.6. Okay. Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, is it clear to you, because I know you care about it, what I was doing the Human Rights Commission.
Well, that was what I was going to ask about. I would appreciate you adding language at the very beginning that explains that there
Of the
are
letter, yeah.
of the letter, yeah, that explains that although the non-housing elements are further down on the page, they're not lower in priority. That's number one.
Yeah, okay.
My other question, I have a question, and that is, I wasn't present for, obviously, for the VHIP presentation, and I wanted to ask whether there are out-of-state property owners who have been able to access VHIP funding. And I'm really strongly opposed to that. And I wondered whether shoot, sorry, whether an element like that could be, I don't even know whether it's possible to add things like that. I know they're not supposed to be statutory changes added to the budget or requirements added to budget frameworks, but they sometimes are. And so I just wanted to bring it up as a point of conversation and a question. Thanks.
The only thing I can tell you is we did have, it was really a good, rather extensive testimony about VHIP. And at that time, there was a discussion of the size of the projects. And they're almost entirely very small projects. I mean, really small. Like 5 units or less, mostly. My suspicion, without knowing, is that that a project that size would be in-state, local developers. So that's all I know at this point. We'd have to ask, I guess we'd ask who testified?
Sean Gilpin.
Sean Gilpin. Whether there are any out-of-state developers or owners.
But I mean, hypothetically, an out-of-state someone who's out of state could have a unit in Vermont, and also VHIP or DHCD, their program, they get an application. I have a hard time. I'm just not sure this is where we want to get into it. Personally, I have a hard time believing that they would put money to a unit that's in New Hampshire versus Vermont. I just don't see that happening. And
No,
maybe that's me.
That's
being
not what I'm
naive.
asking.
I guess I just don't understand what you're asking.
I'm not asking whether the money is going out of the state. I'm asking whether the money is being accessed by out-of-state owners.
I guess I don't have a problem with it if a unit is in Vermont. Is my personal take.
I get what Elizabeth is saying, and it is something I hadn't thought about, but I would like to know the answer. If out of state people are coming here and having then they get the priority over Vermonters who could, I see both sides, but I would like to find that out. Not necessarily like it would hinder what we're doing in here, but it is something I'm curious about, and I do see Elizabeth's point.
I guess I'd,
There is
go
a
ahead.
requirement that an out-of-state owner identify a local property manager to keep track, a responsible party to manage, but I don't see a restriction on it being in-state owner. Although the back of my mind, I seem to be remembering something about the total number of units. So I don't.
There are 1,100 some units.
Yeah, no, the total number of units per applicant. But I may be confusing that with something else. I don't see a restriction.
No.
And that
Yes.
was what I'm asking about, is whether there is any prioritization of
Yes.
Vermont-based property owners, whether there is a prioritization of, because my understanding of the program is that it's supposed to help the mom and pop landlords.
Ted, did you have a comment?
I was just going to relay what was on the VHIP website that, and I think it was expressed there, that out-of-state owners, it specifies that it seems like they are able to receive VHIP funding, but they are required to identify a property manager located within 50 miles of the units.
Elizabeth, is your object, I think it's pretty clear that the renters are Vermonters because they're living here. The units are in Vermont. And the property managers, if it's a rental, are Vermonters. Are you saying you object to the idea that the owner might be living out of state, even though they're investing in Vermont property?
Yeah, I'm saying that that Vermont property owners should be prioritized if the program is oversubscribed, as my understanding is that Vermont property, it's supposed to be a hand up for Vermont property owners or for property owners, I guess. And it seems to me that it should be a hand up for Vermont property owners, and that they should be prioritized.
I
if
can
it's oversubscribed.
understand what you're saying. I think the priority is to get as many units online as possible.
Well, again, if it's
That's a quite-
oversubscribed, then that's not really a question, because the same number of units would be brought online anyway.
Well, I am certainly happy if someone would be willing to talk to Sean Gilpin and ask. Who might that be?
Elizabeth asked the question.
Elizabeth, would you
I
be
would
willing
be-
to ask?
I would be glad to ask Sean
Yeah, I
Gilpin.
think Sean's the person, and if you
But my-
have trouble getting
I
hold of
guess
him.
my second question is, is it possible to put a requirement like that on or not?
To me, it's possible to do. I wouldn't want to do it. But others are free to.
I don't think
I follow the will of the committee, simply because I don't want to get into that level of, I don't want to try to change via policy through a letter to the,
Yeah.
this committee, but that's my view. Other members of the committee, I'll follow the committee's will on it. I mean, I could see going to Sean and saying, is this something that we should worry about? It is an issue, et cetera. But that's just me.
I don't feel this is the place for policy change of the program.
That's what I was just gonna add, isn't a policy and not something that we should even be focusing on, because it's a we could ask him to consider making that a policy.
Right, and we could take that up. I mean, if we wanted to deal with legislation or else ask him to change the regulations, we can do that. I'm just not, for me, it's more like the level of detail in this letter is like nothing. And I'm not, I would not favor using the letter as a device for that, but I am, it's up to the committee.
I think it's a good question to ask, Elizabeth. It's just, the policy doesn't go in the approach letter, but somewhere else it might.
Other members of the committee?
Yes, I see a lot of, how would I refer to them? A lot of good areas that we could affect with some money. One of them, I'll just point out, would be the rental arrears assistance fund. That shows up much later,
And
and something that has $0. I see that getting easily overlooked after a first one of our first priority being 12 million more to the program that's getting multiple million. So I just see a lot of, good things, I think, that have a lot of benefit to them, too far down the list for me to support this
Well,
one.
one thing I think I better do, I'm not sure this will address what you're saying, but one thing I think I better do is I better take this, all this proposed legislation stuff, put it at the end and say, we're not prioritizing this at this point. And I could even say some of them, if they passed, we would put as tier one priority, but right now they're just proposed legislation. I think I better do that for clarity purposes.
But still, I mean, giving them the heads up.
Well, that's what I wanted.
They don't get
Coming,
772 3 weeks from now.
Right, I agree with Joe, actually. I consider the rental arrears
I think
really
that's-
important.
Especially the 772, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Saudia and then, okay. Saudia,
Thank you. I was gonna say not only the rental arrears, but also the landlord liaisons
yeah,
is like super important and helpful and had a pathway. So I feel like that's an easier pathway, even if it's not included in our housing legislation that comes out. I think there were previous fundings and programmings that existed historically. So I don't know if there's a way in the event to acknowledge that, in the event that the proposed legislation that we are putting out doesn't come forward, that it can still be just additional supplemental to the pathway that previously existed to continue funding for the CAP agencies. And then I just wanted to say, like, yes, I also agree and appreciate the restructuring of the letter. And I would say I wouldn't even put priorities. I would just put housing and non-housing, and then the proposed legislation would be my suggestion. And just we can essentially not say like the tiers could be the different subgroups, like one tier could be housing and one tier could be non-housing, right? Things other than housing, like the Human Rights Commission, LAOB, and those things. But I just also think that if we move it to the top, so that's all on the first page, and then put the proposed legislation on the back, which is still there, and highlighting that, and just really, if there's a way to emphasize and acknowledge that the programs that are not, I mean, 600,000 for a landlord liaison doesn't feel like a huge ask to me. And so y'all know me and my equitable lens, and I'm always like, give them, if it's a low ask, we should definitely do that, because you give the most to the most amount of people, you have the most impact, you're stretching your impact. So that's my 2 cents.
I just want to throw out another idea for Saudia, okay?
Yep.
You make a good, I'm just thinking out loud here, okay? So one option, Saudia is suggesting no tiers. Okay, I could do that. I mean, they'll roll their eyes a little because they want us to have tiers, but hear me out for a minute. Another option is to keep the tiers, but I could take extension of the landlord rental arrears assistance fund, which is an existing program, as you point out, and put it in tier one. And just put, this is also an extension that we have in a bill or something like that. I could do that.
Yeah, I just, even if it was just that, the reality is that if we wanted to give, let's change numbers. We wanted to give VHCB, it's a very lean time right now. It's been we keep saying that as if it's though it's this year is a lean time. There's people who live their lives in a lean time. So let's not act like, oh, we just don't have money this year. Last year we were flush with cash and we could spend it on anything. We weren't flush with cash. We just had banknotes that borrowed money from your right pocket instead of your left pocket. Because that's, you know, when we say it compounds funding, or what we would say, it's a multiplier, you know, you get, you know, it multiplies your state money with your federal. Both of those are my pockets. I mean, I don't really care which it comes
Right.
with. They could get $6 million more if they change their allocation of funding from conservation to housing. That could give them 2 million
Well, you
more
know
for
what?
housing. It could
We
give them
could-
8 million more for
Wait,
housing.
wait a
Give
minute.
them 15 million. for
I think this was just a request for housing. But we can put that.
Oh, I've suggested
whatever
it for
amount,
years.
should just be money.
I've suggested it for years. It's not gonna happen.
No, but we could put in here that it'd be for housing.
No, this is for housing.
Yeah,
I'm just saying their internal structure of
yeah. they
dividing
also-
the money.
Yeah, the
which-
dividing the 30,
Yeah, which I
The
believe they've said
37 million.
they're thinking about maybe.
right. You want it to all be conservation.
It's quite possibly we should all use it for conservation so that we can meet our 30 by 30 goals.
Oh,
Or
we got 50 by 50.
we could say we're in the housing crisis and people can't find rentals, and maybe we should use a little more of that for housing,
Okay, I'll
right?
tell you what,
My backyard's considered
seriously,
pretty
I
well.
actually, out of time, I hear you, but you give me this, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna turn around and just create another version of this.
Barb, that's me. So today at noon, I had a vice chair's meeting. One of the topics that came up was, our budget letters. And Rep. Hango had mentioned that their committee is doing a spreadsheet and a letter. And that, both Rep. Feldes and Rep. Shy really appreciated the spreadsheet. And then I asked if I could copy Rep. Hango's homework, and she sent me last year's template of the spreadsheet. So I have started a spreadsheet
I was
from
gonna
this.
say,
Is
man,
that something that the committee
gonna-
would be okay with me creating?
Okay, if we have a spreadsheet, you realize that if we put a spreadsheet in, they're 3 times more likely to listen to it. Because that's all the way they think. Okay, we're at one real quick and then we gotta run. We won't get a star if everybody's hanging around.
The MER program, where does the figure 800,000 come from?
That came from. It came from Alex Farrell.
So does that mean 800,000 for this year as well as what?
It just, it would be
Just
for
for
this.
this year.
Yeah.
So that's 1.2 million less than last year.
Yeah, it might be, yeah. Would,
But just, I'll talk to you off.
Okay. okay. You guys look out for a draft. We'll just keep running it until on
And a
Friday we
spreadsheet.
send something out.
And a spreadsheet.
And a spreadsheet.
Spreadsheet, yay.
Let me color code it.
Okay,
Yes.
we're,
Appreciate it.
tomorrow we convene. At what time? After the floor. Oh, no, it's the, no, it's, we convene at 1 o'clock.
Okay, but everyone needs to be in their seats at 9 AM tomorrow. So
On the floor.
on the floor. So if you could get here for at the latest 8:30. Because we got that thing going on.
Okay, we are now adjourned.